Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a Twin Soul Channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Cancer for Twin Souls. Happened to take place on January 17th, 2022, 6:48 p.m. if you happen to live on the eastern seaboard of the United States. This particular lunation was fraught with a lot of really difficult energies. And I just want to go ahead and just say thank you guys for your patience as I put the content together and wrote out the energy myself, as it was definitely making some challenging aspects and angles to things in my own personal chart. So I almost skipped putting together content for this lunation and just wanted to take it off. But, as I was sitting in sessions with client after client and really saw how the energy was impacting them, it seemed really important to put something together for you to understand what's happening and how to navigate it. So many people have experienced a lot of tension in the current energy. The full moon in Cancer was here at the 27th degree of Cancer, opposing Sun, conjunct Pluto, conjunct Divine Feminine. This particular combination of energy here made it really difficult on most people's interpersonal relationships, at least people that I've spoken to, as there has been with partnership asteroid also representing Divine Feminine, speaking to Pluto, representing death, endings, and a lot of our fears. As these two have come into contact with each other at the height of this full moon, this energy left a lot of people with relationship breakdowns, relationship disintegrations, and relationship challenges that have made, I guess we could call it, an atmosphere in our divine counterpartships and in our work partnerships and work relationships. Because this energy is really showing up in particular at this time in heavy contact with the divine feminine energy as opposed to the divine masculine energy, this kind of lunation would have felt more intense for people who identify in the divine feminine polarity of their connections. Ideally, we're all really amplifying and experiencing both energies, both feminine and masculine. However, if you found yourself at this, juncture in your journey, really identifying more with divine feminine energy, you might have found this particular lunation and period of time more intense, coming from December into now. The reason is because our human feminine energy, that's Venus, she has turned retrograde. She danced with Pluto twice in December. She'll dance with Pluto one more time once she turns direct. The full dates for the Venus retrograde are December 19th through January 29th. And Venus can represent glue, and divine feminine energy can really represent kind of commitment in a connection, or connection, the higher level of it. So because of these two dancing with Pluto, more of our fears, more of our shadow have shown up during this period of time and worked their way into our interactions and connection, so that we can start to work on them and get them to work their way out of our connections. This passageway at the start of 2022 is a really important one as we kick off the union window energy, moving into, and that peaks at the beginning of 2023 and wanes at the beginning of 2024. This 40-day window of the Venus retrograde, where Venus is talking to Pluto and to the partnership asteroid Juno, marks, it's kind of like a tone setter, if you will, and a theme a theme revealer of precisely what we're going to be dealing with over the course of the Scorpio Taurus eclipse cycle, as Venus governs Taurus and Pluto governs Scorpio, and the nodes have just moved into Scorpio and Taurus, North Node in Taurus. And it's also a bit of a theme setter for 2022 as well. This particular Venus retrograde conjunct Pluto, talking to divine feminine as well, is lending itself to a choice point for us. Are we going to continue to allow the aspects of our shadow that have built walls in our connections continue to run our show? Or are we going to evolve? It really presents to us a bit of an extreme choice here. Light or shadow, love or darkness, choose. And because it's such a heightened peak experience around our fears and our Plutonian energies, which can represent things we're ashamed of or we're afraid of, the way we respond to transition points in alchemy, the need for change and transformation. What we're seeing from ourselves and from other people is how our own internal feminine energy responds to those shadows. Does it cling? Does it disassociate and check out? Does it allow an addiction to surface and just operate in the addiction? Does it control? Does it manipulate? Does it hide? What happens when your creative, flexible, feminine life force energy, again, it doesn't matter which body you incarnated into, we all have both energies. But what happens when your feminine, creative life force energy comes in contact with things she'd rather not feel and things she'd rather not face? That's what really got illuminated under the light of this full moon, with the full moon standing across from this configuration. A lot of emotional intensity, a lot of emotional extremes. And because this coincided with the Mercury retrograde, this is just, I talked about this a lot in the Energy Worker update, so I'll recommend that you have a listen to that. Just lends itself to it not being the right time to talk through things and work through things with other people as shadow is arising. This is more so the time to take some opportunity for a timeout and to look at and deal with self. Because this, in the world of communication, Mercury being retrograde and thought being retrograde and connection, that's Venus being retrograde, both of those sitting on either side of the divine feminine, talking to Pluto, just our ability to operate at our highest in connection is actually at its lowest with this energy. So it's going to serve everyone well at the moment to, if triggers are up, shadow is up, take a beat, take a pause, because I am seeing a lot in my sessions where people are forcing the conversation or trying to force their way through a painful point. Extremist reactions are happening. Things are being said that aren't really meant. There's a bit of an explosive energy here where the shadow is not being owned. And then, things will have to get rehashed, resaid, redealt with later. But unfortunately, sometimes in the heat of the moment, we can say things we don't mean that can't be unheard. And so there's a lot of damage that can be done in this energy that, unfortunately, it can be avoided by just recognizing when we need to put ourselves in timeout to deal with our own intensity and not force other people to interact with that part of ourselves when we know that it's not them, it's us in the first place. So there's that. This particular kickoff to the year is bringing forward some very confrontational energy through the divine feminine field that's meant to be revealing. As we kick off this union window, this Pluto configuration here is opening up and revealing and stripping back everything that was rose colored glass laden, everything that was hope riddled, so that we can see with 2020 stark, clear vision in high relief precisely where things are at in our existing connections. This particular caliber of clarity can come with a lot of cognitive distortions if we aren't careful. And I'll link, what some of the main cognitive distortions are below this video. But when you start to hear yourself tell stories about that are either in awfulization or catastrophization or all or nothing or really fear laden stories, these are things that can get our attention and drag us into our own personal jail, our own personal hell. And Pluto can really represent that. It can represent being bound by our own darkness, being bound in our own underworld. So, because this is the kickoff point to the union window, how much fun. What's happening here is we're getting an opportunity to see how much we have grown, how much light we can stand to hold when our own darkness comes for us. We're getting the opportunity to get present and get comfortable with seeing the exact nature of where our shadow and our counterpart shadow is currently at, so that we know what the next step in terms of creating union energy here on earth is going to require. It's meant to be revealing. It's meant for you to see, okay, this is what it's going to take. This is what you got to work on. This is what they have to work on. This is how far we are from a harmonious kind of placement if we'd like to experience that union energy. And this can really be appearing in more than just our connection with counterpart. This can be showing up in connections with business partners, connections in the workplace. This can really be showing up for a lot of people because Pluto and Venus both govern two different types of money, earned income and investments, or loans, taxes. This can be showing up in our financial world in this way, where we're just kind of getting eyes wide open. Here's what the issue is. And here's what's going to require your attention for you to achieve balance and harmony in the third dimension with what this connection is asking you to anchor in terms of love. So, yeah, my strong recommendation is just to be paying attention to the themes. It is a bit like a test, so to speak. How much have you learned? How far have you come? Because as we close out this energy, moving into the end of January and the middle of February, as we close out this energy, it does shift, it does get lighter, but the tone gets set. The die is cast in terms of what source and spirit are going to be working with us on for the remainder of the year. And it's okay if we, realize during this period that we need parts of the lesson broken down in smaller chunks. We live in a benevolent universe that's happy to let us repeat any segment of lesson that we found daunting and difficult to integrate. And simultaneously, if you know you're done, now's the time to make some new choices and get the support you would need to make new choices as quickly as possible. with so that we're not repeating old lessons here. Okay, that's what's going on there in the divine feminine energy. In the divine masculine energy over here, it's interesting because we have, what according to traditional astrologers, we have a Jupiter that is pretty much unaspected. It's not having any major planetary conversations with any of the traditional planetary bodies. This would be the energy of the divine masculine energy, more so, I would even say, um, taking a step back, like being in a break mode from needing to be on the forefront of this, while the divine feminine energy is really in the space of uh, being in I would say, the depth of transformation and alchemical change here. And they take turns, they go back and forth. A lot of the energy that the divine feminine is experiencing now in a very tight 40 to 50 day period, the divine masculine energy went through in all of 2020 when he had 3 meetups with Pluto that year. The divine feminine's doing it in a much shorter period of time. This unaspected divine masculine energy is having conversations with what astrologers would consider minor planets. We've got a square to Ceres or asteroids. We have a sextile to Vesta over here. And this allows an amplification of our commitment and stick to itiveness energy, our willingness to follow through and see things through. While the Ceres energy is really showing us where we need to trim the fat from our lives and from our interactions and from our third dimensional realities, where there's been like maybe a little bit too much excess. Sorry, that's a sextile and a sextile. We have also sextile to Foles here, which is conjunct Vesta. So that sextile to Foles can bring just a little bit of a feeling like some of our commitments and the things that we have committed to in our divine masculine energy, some of those things have asked us to sacrifice a bit more than we've probably been willing to. They have cost us a bit more than what we intended to pay. And so we are being asked at this time in our divine masculine energy to really re-examine some of those commitments and figure out where we can kind of reconfigure some, cut some, so that we can be spiritually a bit more free to live what our soul song is. And finally, we have a we have a bit of a trine here to the creation goddess. Although it's loose, it is a bit of a trine to the creation goddess. And this amplifies Jupiter's creative abilities in the first place. Jupiter is already a planet that brings forward opportunity and luck. Jupiter talking to creation goddess in trine is luck created by our own hands. So ultimately, this segment is really about what it is we feel like we can create and what we need to let go of in order to be able to create it. In many connections, even those that are in a place of union here on the third dimension in a traditional format, you may find that each counterpart, if you're anchoring in polaric energy, is having very different experiences of the moment. They're having they're on very different journeys, even though they might be in the same house. And there's a need for this as we open into this energy for 2022, this union window energy. Consider that when 2 legs walk and you're walking forward, one leg is stationary and the other one is moving. Both of us can't be spun out at the same time. My mom's always said this. She's like, whoever you're in relationship with, both of you can't be popping off at the same time, kid. Like one of y'all has to hold it together. And so this is a bit of a similar energy here where there's massive change for both. But one's a little less turbulent and one's a bit more heady. One's more emotional, one's more heady. So keep that in mind that if you and your counterpart just aren't synced at the moment, there will be opportunities to sync in the months to come. And that right now, it's really about finding your way with your own pieces of work, so that as we come out of this, little purgatory passageway that shows us, okay, here's the work for 2022. As we come out of this in the spring, you have the opportunity to come out better rather than worse for the wear. So the calendar is open. If you'd like to book a reading, you can find a link below or hit me up at K-Moon Astro. There's time in the January calendar and early February, which is just a week or so away. And if you heard something that resonates for you, definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new, and the like button, because that just allows this content to circulate and allows you to get access to it at each lunation. Thanks so much, everyone. Take great care. Bye for now.